Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of October 2nd through the 9th of 2022. And we start this week with Mercury already direct. Now it's station direct late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Here's the thing though, we're still going to feel some of the effects because Mercury is still in shadow. We also, on this day, have Venus opposing Jupiter, Venus being in Libra, Jupiter in Aries, and the moon in Capricorn will be squaring off with the sun and Venus also. So we've got this sort of yay, Mercury direct feeling. So things start, it's like Mercury's waking up from a nap and kind of starting to move forward a little bit, but we won't be out of shadow for a few days. So we need to give ourselves time for last minute adjustments. And on this day, on Sunday, we're also going to probably feel a little push and pull between I want what I want, that independent spirit of Aries with Jupiter there, and having these wonderful ways of expressing ourselves and having all kinds of opportunities to really be in this spotlight. And then you have Venus in Libra, who likes to have very kind, copacetic, balanced relational kind of things. And so here it is, we're going to want to try and maintain some sense of balance and control, especially with the moon in Capricorn making this square. And it's going to be a little tricky because we want to communicate these new ideas that suddenly Mercury is now coming out of its fogginess. And so it's going to be, like I say, a little tricky. It's going to be important to step back. I think the biggest theme for this week is playing the observer, loving detachment. Try not to get caught up in a lot of the emotions that are going to be showing up this week. We have Moon canoodling with Pluto. So Moon's still in Capricorn. Then when it canoodles with Pluto on Monday, Mercury will make a trine to this Moon while Mars squares off with Mercury. So we've got a little bit of squaring going on. Remember, that's tension, which is okay, but then we also have a trine going on where there's an ease and a harmony happening. And so powerful emotions can lead to really heated discussions if we're not careful with Mars and Gemini here. But we can also use these as an opportunity to not necessarily force our ideas, even though that may be the temptation, but to be able to share them with passion and with a way that gets people to hear what we're trying to say. And we may get a little extra boost of energy this day just to get things done. And if we are not careful, we may force our ideas or conversations onto other people's, and that could create some temper tantrums if we don't get what we want. So just notice if there's this little push and pull here again with what I want, what I feel, I'm not getting it, how do I manipulate it, that sort of thing. Again, taking a step back, playing the observer, not letting the emotions take over. Moon will canoodle with Saturn on Tuesday, October 4th, and Mars will quincunx Pluto. What this can offer is a need to establish some new ground rules, especially if the first, if Sunday, Monday was a little bit intense with emotions and ideas. Well, now it's like, okay, I've evaluated some things and here's some new ground rules in which we relate to each other and how we communicate. This is great conflict resolution opportunity. The difficulty with the quincunx of Mars and Pluto is it's like you want to communicate or you want to understand whatever's being presented, but you really just can't quite put your finger on it. And so you need another perspective. And I think that's the thing is that's where that spaciousness comes from. It's like, okay, what other perspective? How can I look at this differently? Moon canoodling with Saturn Tuesday, Wednesday has a sort of oppressive or depressive energy to it at times because Saturn and the moon actually are good friends. They complement each other, but at the same time, Saturn can be so serious, right? And when the moon is also canoodling with Saturn, it can make us feel like we're taking things a little too seriously. And so here's an opportunity to lighten things up and to make a conscious choice to say, okay, I want to have more fun. How do I do that? Let me change my perspective. There's nothing terribly exciting about the moon and Saturn canoodling other than if you take your feelings and really ground them into reality, into, hey, I'm not going to take it too seriously. then you may find yourself feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit more innovative, especially because we're dealing with Aquarius here with Saturn and the moon. It's like, how can I do things differently than I've done before? Remember that definition of insanity, right? So we'll get a little bit of help come Thursday. Mercury will trine Pluto and Saturn moves into a trine with the sun. So our ideas can be grounded into reality. This is where we can start to see some things getting done, especially as we're leading up to a full moon this weekend in Aries. And I'll talk about that in a second, but our experiences support ways to have something that we want, to have some applied learning. So remember, I jokingly say this, but it's true. If we're working on something, we're going to get the opportunity to practice it. We're not learning these skills to just learn them mentally. Experience is our greatest teacher. So we're going to be interacting and connecting within relationships of all kinds that can flow a little bit easier. And if you get swept up in the emotional part of it, because high sensitives, especially internalizers, have a way of allowing the emotions to kind of take over like a tsunami. And if we don't have healthy outlets of how to process it, or we get too involved with our emotions, it creates an upheaval. It creates these arguments or these tension points that really may have more to do with our internal wounding and the things that we're carrying into the relationship from childhood or whatever it might be, that have nothing to do with the person that we're relating to. So that's why I say, if we can take a step back and be lovingly detached and say, express what we need and what we want without the focus being on the relationship, and let it be more on what kind of outcome do I want to have, right? And what I mean by that isn't so much that you don't care about the relationship, but it's that, hey, you know what? I really want to spend some time with you, but I'm a little nervous about it being too long because we just start clashing after a while. It might be something like that, right? And so you just express yourself and then you let it go, regardless of what the reaction might be. And if you find yourself in a situation where you do have to play the observer, where things start to, let's say you're interacting with parents or you're interacting with friends or loved ones that just know which buttons to push, taking a step back and allowing yourself to watch how they're interacting, what's happening inside of them, not about changing them, but about just observing it and noticing, okay, maybe I need to walk away from this for a little bit, create a little bit of space even. And so this is, again, a practice. Friday, Mars will begin applying to the sun in Libra. So we may be feeling a boost of mental energy. This is great, especially as Mercury continues to move out of its fogginess. So some lighthearted and fun can come into play here, especially if the beginning of the week felt a little too serious or a little too heavy. Now we can get a little bit of lightness, especially, like I mentioned, this full moon that's happening on Saturday in Aries. Now the moon will be canoodling Chiron. So I'm going to bring these 2 points together, that Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday, we can have great healing. There may be some apologies that show up or some awareness around how our wounding has colored our view of relationships. And I'm going to offer this, which might upset a couple of you, but hopefully you can understand this, that when someone, a beloved, pushes a button of ours and we react to it, it isn't their fault that they push that button. It's our button that we have to work with. Now, if there's abuse, believe me, I am saying no thank you to that, right? I say run. However, what I can say is that there's no easy relationships, and there's going to be things that show up, and you have to decide, what can I accept and what can I work with? And gathering information can lead to some longer term commitments and goals being met. And, also giving someone the opportunity to feel safe and vulnerable during this time, it can lead to that deeper connection. But you also have to know your audience, and you have to know what is the purpose of this relationship. Because some relationships are meant to go deep, and some are meant to have, the tensions so that we can grow. And some, I'm going to go into a little diatribe here. So if you're still watching, stay tuned. I promise you, I'll try not to bore you or get too much on my soapbox here. But one of the things about relationships that we have to keep in mind is there is no one right way to have a relationship. And there's many different purposes within our relationships. And as we say, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, expecting our beloved to be everything to us all the time is not fair to them. And expecting ourselves to show up for ourselves all the time is not always fair to us. We're perfectly imperfect humans. And so what we're working with, but we're in relationship, because we are relationship oriented beings, is that we're saying, can I accept this, and how do I work with it in a way that is healthy and that allows the growth and the safety to be there in the middle of that tension, and the safety and growth to be there when I'm vulnerable. And that why I'm pointing to this is because relationships are up. I mean, it's just the way it is. And if we are looking to our beloved to be that say emotional support for us, and they don't have the emotional maturity for it, then that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not good for us. It does mean, though, that maybe we need to look somewhere else for that emotional support. And I don't mean to step outside or betray the relationship, but a third party, or that girlfriend or that guy friend or whatnot that you feel really deeply connected to on an emotional level. And that's okay, as long as you don't cross any lines within your committed relationship. So I'm bringing all this up because I feel like these are topics that are going to be showing up for us throughout the week and into the weekend. But I also feel that this full moon in Aries weekend can provide great healing and understanding, and an offering of, say, a deeper love for ourselves, if nothing else. Great compassion for ourselves is going to be important. And there can be a lot of lightness here as well. It is a fire and air full moon. So I offer, do a fire ceremony, light a candle, safely burn intentions that you wrote maybe at the new moon 2 weeks ago, things like that. And just allow yourself to dance in this moon and find healing from her beautiful energy. All right, you guys, I hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, share. Come find me at jamiedawn.com, and I look forward to connecting with you. Have a great week.